Chapter 5. Define your own success and tell fear to take a hike. How to define success? The only person that can answer that question is you. Every single person is different. Every lawyer has had different experiences, and every lawyer has different needs. So what is success to you? Is it money, position, title, meaningful work, time, or flexibility? The list can go on and on and on. But does fear derail your drive to succeed? Yes, fear. Sometimes that little voice creeps in. But no, I can't do that. I don't know enough. I'm not good enough. That fear of inadequacy. I was listening to an interview with Alan Dershowitz. He confessed, I don't fit in. I'm not as smart as people think I am. I still get nervous. Well, if Alan Dershowitz, the world-renowned professor, lawyer, and scholar, has fears, why wouldn't us mere mortals? It's not about the fear. That's a given. It's what we do in the face of it. It takes enormous courage to experience something new in the face of fear. Lawyers Michelle Otero Valdez and Karen Lapicas share how they face their fears and define success in their own unique way. Their stories illustrate the importance of living your own story, not anyone else's. Michelle Valdez chose a practice area that she found fascinating, all areas of it. The challenge? It's maritime law, and it's a man's world, just about every single aspect of it. But that didn't stop her one little bit.
What's the backstory that led you to maritime law?
During my undergraduate years, it was the Reagan years. The thinking at the time was, if you graduated from college with a business degree, you'd be set. However, after graduating from Florida International University with my degree in International Business and Management, I began working in banking at around the time that the savings and loan crisis was looming. Within a 3-year period of time, I had been laid off from 6 different jobs in banking. It was at my last job in banking that I decided I wanted more control over my destiny and not be subject to the whims of an industry heavily regulated by government. At this last job, I began assisting the government in essentially phasing out my own job and the jobs of many of my colleagues. It was at that time that I learned all about law school loans. I was tasked with assisting with the closure of the student lending department of that bank and discovered that I could afford to go to law school. So I applied to law school, and to my surprise, not only was I accepted, but I was offered a merit scholarship. By second year of law school, I had settled on wanting to practice international law. Arbitration was beginning to take hold in commercial matters, and as I had graduated with an international business degree, I had some working knowledge of these matters. Because I wanted to focus my studies on international business, someone suggested I take the Admiralty 1 class as it delved into numerous international law issues, and as its practice was based in federal court, that one class changed everything for me. I ended up booking that class, which meant I got the highest grade in the class. Because of that, my professor urged me to focus my future studies in this area. That professor also got me my first job as a law clerk for a well-known plaintiff's maritime firm, specializing in the injuries of crew and passengers aboard cruise ships. I was a member of the International Moot Court Board and was preparing for oral argument. This preparation included having outside volunteer lawyers that would come in to judge the arguments and assist the students for competition. One of the last lawyers to assist me in my own preparation was a maritime lawyer who ultimately became my mentor and said, if you ever need a job, give me a call. By the time I graduated law school, I had come to love maritime law and knew this is what I wanted to practice. However, little did I know that I still had a lot to overcome.
But why maritime, given it's known as a man's world on steroids?
While 2 years' time does not seem like a lot, it was with law school loans looming and perhaps a stubborn view on my part that if that is what I wanted to do, I'll find a way to do it. The original plan was to continue working as a law clerk for that plaintiff's maritime law firm upon graduation, and upon passing the bar, work as a first-year associate. However, just before graduation, I learned there was not an associate position available for me at that firm and found myself without a job. So after taking the bar, I knew I had law school loans to pay and a career to start, and I didn't want to sit idly by waiting for my bar results. So I found myself working as a paralegal for a civil defense firm, floating from partner to partner, handling a variety of matters, including oil and gas franchise disputes, family law, real estate, and intellectual property, but no maritime law. While working for this firm, I continued to interview at various maritime law firms, and while some simply said, "Call me back when you get your bar results," others discouraged me altogether from pursuing this area of the law. One well-known maritime lawyer even told me that I should go and practice family law, as maritime law simply wasn't suitable for women. Undeterred, I received my passing bar results and called that maritime lawyer that gave me his business card a year and a half prior to that. He quickly scheduled an interview with his senior law partner, and a week later, I was working for that maritime firm, Underwood, Karcher, and Anderson, PA.
And who were your mentors along the way?
The maritime lawyer that assisted me while in law school and got me the job was Andy Anderson. He was the attorney that I reported to at Underwood, Karcher, and Anderson, and he taught me so much. There was another female lawyer at the firm that was practicing workers' compensation, and she was my direct report when Andy wasn't around. When I showed an interest in Longshore and Harbor Workers' Compensation Act cases, she happily handed them over to me. Her name was Meg Kerr, and I learned a lot from her. Meg began handling workers' compensation cases about a year before I joined the firm, and she became so adept at handling these cases, she went on to become a Florida judge of compensation claims. Meg would sometimes complain that only the men in the firm were getting the maritime law cases. Maybe Meg's quiet complaints to me made me stubbornly insist on handling maritime law cases. As the only other woman in the firm, am I destined to handle workers' compensation cases for the rest of my law career? I did not want to be relegated to handling only workers' compensation cases at the firm. Surprisingly, Underwood, Karcher, and Anderson made sure I did not suffer the same feelings Meg expressed of being seen as a second-class lawyer.
How did you navigate various situations from position to position?
I never feared moving from position to position because it's my nature to ask lots of questions, and I made sure that the position I was looking at aligned with my career goals. For example, while I was still working at Underwood, Karcher, and Anderson, I was approached by Thomas Miller to work for them. I was concerned that this job would be a step back for my career, as I was now a 3+ year associate and firmly entrenched in a good firm handling good maritime cases. I spoke to numerous colleagues in the industry, including Andy Anderson, who by this time had left Underwood, Karcher, and Anderson for another firm, and they all encouraged me to take advantage of this opportunity. It was a very rare opportunity for a young attorney to work for an English P&I club. At Thomas Miller, I handled every kind of maritime case, including collisions, pollution, cargo damage, general average, all forms of maritime personal injuries, maritime casualties, and maritime contract disputes. However, by 2005, Thomas Miller was downsizing. I had 2 daughters, and while I was offered relocation to work in the New Jersey office, I once again had to decide how to navigate that next chapter of my professional career. Do I stay in marine insurance, or do I return to private practice? Once again, I turned to numerous colleagues in the industry to help me make that decision. I looked at my career goals and the fact that I now had a family with small daughters going to good schools and making good friends. It was that soul searching that had me return to private practice to work once again with Andy Anderson, this time as his law partner. I was being scouted by several law firms, asking me to open up their Admiralty Law Department or running their existing Maritime Law Department, and there were other women in the firm that wanted to kick the ladder out from under me because they think they need to do so to get ahead. Kind of way to remove the competition. That single situation in my life made up my mind. I would never kick the ladder when there is another woman looking to make it in this area of the law. And I would do everything in my power to help them succeed. In my mind, it is this belief that has made my law career in maritime law a successful and fulfilling one.
What is your current situation?
I am the managing partner of the Miami office of Chalos & Co. PC, a well-known international law firm focusing primarily in admiralty and maritime law. This setup is ideal for me as my daughters are now teenagers, and the freedom of being my own boss allows me to set up a situation where if one of my daughters needs to get homework done, she can walk over from school to my office and do it.
So what did you learn about yourself as you progressed through your journey?
What I've learned is that all of this talk about assessing your life goals and making sure that they align with your career and making sure we are practicing law with mindfulness is not hokum. It is necessary to ensure that all the aspects of work, family, and home life are in sync. I have also learned that if I put my mind and energy into something, it will come to a positive result. I envision myself running a maritime law office and having a good team to help me do it. That takes not only mindfully believing in yourself, but surrounding myself with people that believe in me too.
The key to entering a new circle is to assume you belong, contribute in a meaningful way, and be inclusive. Michelle Valdez made her mark on maritime law. She was the first Latina to be board certified in Florida and the first Latina skipper of the Fort Lauderdale Mariners Club. She has been president of the Florida chapter of the Women's International Shipping and Trading Association, USA, and has been on the National Sections and Divisions Council of the Federal Bar Association. Why do I point this out? That is how you become relevant in a circle that doesn't look like you. Contribute in a meaningful way, take action, and lead. And remember, you can define your own success and tell fear to take a hike. Karen Lapicus has faced her fears and redefined success in her own unique way. She's a former senior attorney for the IRS and now owns her own firm that focuses on IRS tax defense and litigation.
Karen, I know you've been doing a great deal of introspective. Would you like to share?
Many lawyers, like myself, are entrepreneurs. We traded the shackles of 40 to 60-hour-a-week jobs for the luxury of working 80 to 100 for ourselves. We did it for a lot of reasons, one of which is the fact that owning a business is revered in our society. Our culture is founded on grit, ingenuity, risk-taking, and wealth building. But entrepreneurial life is not always glamorous. It not only costs us our time, but it comes at a much larger expense, our mental health. I recently did a Google search and brought up these titles. The first on Inc.com. The article was called The Psychological Price of Entrepreneurship. Another was on Forbes.com called Depression Among Entrepreneurs is an Epidemic Nobody is Talking About.
Was there a common theme in these articles?
A common theme among these two articles and other ones I pulled up is that the rigors of entrepreneurship lead to depression, and the legal profession attracts people more prone to depression in the first place. You know what I hate about articles like these? It gives us one more thing to worry about, becoming depressed. Now we also have to worry about our mental health too.
So does that frustrate you?
Fortunately, I have a much different experience with entrepreneurship and depression. I credit owning my own law practice to being happy. And shouldn't I be? I mean, I have the ultimate dream job. I'm my own boss. I have the freedom to travel, decide my own hours, write my own destiny.
So you're living your dream, right?
Well, kind of.
How so?
These things don't make me happy. However, I didn't start a law firm because I was searching for happiness. I started a law firm because I was running from depression. Entrepreneurship was just one more of the many seemingly crazy risks I've made in my life. And I used to think I took risks to find happiness. From taking flying lessons and sleeping alone on the Appalachian Trail when I was only 18, jumping from an airplane on my 32nd birthday, scuba diving shipwrecks at 120-foot depths at midnight, spending a month in China, studying for 2 different bar exams while working full-time and using old books I found on eBay, biking 200 miles in one day, hell, even going to law school. I used to think that taking risks made me happy, that adrenaline, getting out of my comfort zone was my secret to success. My old motto was, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. But I now know that I was not chasing adrenaline or taking risks to find happiness.
So, how do you see things differently now?
To be honest, embarrassingly honest, I was running from depression. I have fought depression for almost as long as I can remember. I say fought because I don't like to say I suffer from it. I suffered from it for years. But through suffering, I learned to fight it. I learned what made it tolerable. I learned what got me through it. I learned what made it lessen and lessen until I could say I felt, well, normal. When you fight the same opponent over and over, you learn its techniques. You know its second move as soon as you see its first. The fight thus becomes easier to bear. You don't fear it as much, and you can punch it out much quicker. For me, depression is like that. I see signs of it very early, and I know what I need to do to avoid it spiraling out of control. Almost always, it requires me to do something, like breathe or get out of bed. Put one foot in front of the other. Walk the dog. Go out for coffee. Go to the gym. Call a friend. Take a trip. Jump from a plane. Quit a job. Start a business.
Start a business?
Yes, even start a business. 6 years ago, I had a great job with the IRS. I was a senior attorney, litigating cases in the U.S. tax court. I loved it. It was great hands-on experience. I loved my colleagues, and the benefits were generous. But my shoulders started getting heavy as I walked into work every morning. It happened for weeks in a row. And one day I noticed that by the time I reached my office door at 7:30 a.m., all of the day's energy was already zapped. I started dreading Mondays again, which made me dread Sundays also. My gut was talking to me. I was restless. I knew that the question I had to ask myself was not whether I could make enough money if I left, but whether I could be happy if I stayed. And that question came down to this: am I happy? And I knew that if the answer was no, I had to tell myself, okay, change it. People ask me why I left such a great job with the IRS. I always give them the same reasons, like the salary was capped, or I wanted a different challenge. It's funny, they ask me why I left, as if I had a choice. I didn't know it at the time, but starting my own law firm was the greatest thing I have ever done to tackle depression.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful statement. How could that be?
Well, necessity is the mother of change. As a business owner, I had to change. I can't afford to think negatively. If there's anything to this manifest your dream stuff, by God, I'm going to try it. I have nothing to lose and it's free. I can't afford to be an atheist. I've always had a deep faith, but it became even deeper, more of the spiritual but not religious type. I also can't afford to stay in bed all day, so I make sure to take care of my health. I have to get out of bed, go to the gym, eat better. I can't afford to be comfortable. I have to get out of my element, meet people, speak, write, do new things, or I couldn't grow my business. I couldn't pay my bills. Simply put, as an entrepreneur, I cannot afford to be unhappy. I'm on my own. There's no salary and no one else to pay the rent. If I don't make it, it means going back to a job where I might not be happy. And that is all the motivation I need. In a sense, entrepreneurship for me has cured my depression, not created it.
So you feel it has cured your depression, so to speak?
Perhaps the difference between me and someone who falls into depression through entrepreneurship is two things. I don't forget why I became an entrepreneur, and there is nothing more important to me than being happy.
Do you ever feel that you're putting too much pressure on yourself?
Sometimes I fall into the thinking, I should be making more money by now. I should be doing more of this or that to grow my business. I should have saved more money. I should. And that kind of thinking is dangerous after a while. I start to feel like I'm failing to meet my full potential, that I'm not really successful. I can feel the downward spiral starting.
Do you sometimes feel that you're just putting a smile on?
As business owners, many people greet us and ask, "How's business?" I have almost always answered this question, "Great, my bills are paid and I'm happy." I don't tell them I haven't saved enough for retirement, that I have huge student loans, that I worry about having to ask my clients to pay.
So what makes the difference?
I know why I started my own law firm, because I was unhappy, because I would do anything to avoid starting the downward spiral into depression, which I saw myself doing at my old job. Everyone who has been through hell, and everyone has been through different versions of it, is more grateful for the little things, and they don't take things for granted. I don't take happiness for granted.
I'm sure people look at you and your practice and envy your success, right?
You know what I think people envy more than anything? Happiness. And why do we want to be society's version of successful? I think it's because we think it would make us happier. What if you could be happy without all the trappings? For me, having fought depression and knowing such dark feelings for so long, the simple lack of depression is amazing.
So what would you say to lawyer entrepreneurs that are struggling?
Don't get so lost in the messages we get as entrepreneurs that you forget why you were an entrepreneur in the first place. Why did you take that risk? Was it really to get rich? Probably not. It's probably because you know that the ultimate success isn't money. It's happiness. Waking up and not dreading the drive to work, that's success. Coming home, even if exhausted, yet feeling optimistic and energized for what's to come, that's success. Working on the weekends because it's what's right for your client and not because the boss came into your office Friday afternoon and asked you to, that's success. Not having to ask permission to fly home when a family member is sick and you can leave within hours, that's success. Believing that you are now in a position to reach your highest potential, that's success. When you feel like entrepreneurship is bringing you down, remember how it is bringing you up.
What a courageous story and powerful advice. Karen has defined her own success. She stays focused and remembers why she is an entrepreneur. The endless shoulds don't stop her. Karen is a fighter. And most importantly, she has done the soul-searching work to understand what she needs to do in order to keep moving forward.